Normal is a losing battle in your today's society and in general. It is those who are truly themselves who are going to begin winning in the days ahead and in the future of your society, for the energy is supporting that expressiveness and soul expression on the planet. Normal is a protective measure, it's a self defense protocol, you could say, and it's something that is input for you to avoid being punished. So you will have to heal your past where you were punished for being out of line, so to speak, punished for being different or weird, and realize that is your superpower, to be different and to be fully yourself. And that is you bringing the frequency you need to bring to this earth to shift things. Hey, everybody. This is episode 8 of the Channeling Source podcast. I'm Brandon Bloom, and Kat will be joining us today for another full channel mode episode. So I'm going to be going into full channel mode, channeling my spirit guides, the angels and source. And of course, my spirit guides go by the name the Angelic Collective of Xorbítal as an option to call them. And you can read more about that below for some quick background information. However, Kat, did you want to say hi or anything?
Hello, I'm glad to be back.
Heck yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to add in or say before we start? Or otherwise, we'll just jump in just to give you the option.
No, not really. There isn't as much of a theme this time. I am just kind of asking more random questions that are more personal to me. So I do hope that they resonate for people too.
Perfect. All right. Well, I'm going to step out of the way, jump into full channel mode, allow my spirit guides and angels and source to channel directly through me. And there's also going to be a bit more information on full channel mode and like what that can do for you as a listener or a viewer down in the description as well. However, actually, I'll just leave it at that. They don't want me to describe it too much. So I'm probably going to edit it if it takes too much time, but I'm going to jump into full channel mode, step out of the way. So let's see what my spirit guides, the angels and source would like to bring through for and regarding these questions and for all of you today. Okay. Welcome, welcome. To today's podcast episode. And we are excited and looking forward to this opportunity to instill more light in this collective through this channel and through us answering these questions and bringing through information on these questions. For you're also imbibing energetics, light codes, keys, healing energies, and energetic transmissions that will help you regarding these things, in addition to the verbal information that comes through from us when you listen. So you are getting more bang for your buck than just a normal talk when you listen to us this way. So we are excited to, again, bring more light and uplift this collective. Kat, please fire away with your questions and please add in anything intuitive that comes to you, either as interjections at certain points, if that feels light to you, or you are guided to do that along the way.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for having me. Right. So something that I have been struggling with a little bit lately is not having as much of a support network as I would like, not having as many friends around as I would like, kind of comparing it to back in the day when I was in college and my friends would just be right there. And it's just different now. Everyone's spread out, and I have changed a lot as a person, which means I've changed friendships too. But like knowing all that at the same time, I can kind of blame myself and be like, what are you doing wrong to not have more friends or to not have the support network? Um, so I just wanted to start out just kind of wondering, like, do you have any tips for how to find people that are in resonance with you, that will fill you up and bring light into your life, and not just falling into the trap of like becoming friends with whoever's nearby because you're lonely, if that makes sense.
Yes. Well, you have to factor in your purpose with all of this as well. The reason you may have some difficulty finding friends recently is you are in a growing period and a and aligning with your path period. So, the wrong friends could be detrimental to your future prosperity, to your trajectory, and to what spirit has in store for you. So, you can always ask, what is this doing for me? When you find yourself in a phase like this where you think you're wrong, you're beating up on yourself, you may not be wrong at all. It may actually be perfect for you. It may be a blessing in disguise, if you will. So, ask spirit, hey, what's this doing for me? Or is there a reason this is happening besides me just sucking, to put it bluntly? So, for those listening, in addition to that information for cats, we would recommend that as well. What is spirit doing for you in a more isolated period or a period where it is difficult to establish friendships? You may be protected in that way from the wrong influences, the wrong energies, the things that would drag you down, that might drag you back to old periods of your life or old ways of being. So, please accept that current situation and be an allowance of it. However, on the flip side, it's time to invite in people that are in alignment with your future, not just your now, not just your recent history, not just with the stories in your head of what friendship is and how it has to be and what it has to look like and what that gives you. Invite in aligned matches for your future and for your purpose, and people that further your life and expand it consciousness wise, and spirit will typically happily oblige. Now, there may not be many people like that around you in your area. For some of you listening, if you are in a more secluded area or you are in a more of a energetic area where you are a flag of higher vibrations, where spirit has planted you there to lift the vibration of that area to affect the world energetics grid, is a way we will say it for you. And you do not have to buy that as a literal thing, but take it as a concept. You might be planted in a specific area where you are high vibrational, so that you are lifting the frequency of that area so that the whole world can be impacted in a net positive way vibrationally. So, you also have to factor in, what is spirit doing through your location at this time, through any holding patterns you're in at this time. Sometimes the reason your dreams aren't coming true right away, whether it's about friendship or otherwise, is that spirit's actually doing something through you being in a certain situation. And that's not to limit you, that's not to say you're stuck there forever. It's just the more you are in allowance of that and in flow with that, the more you can begin to call in things for your future and be in allowance and patient with where you're at. And the more you can begin to move towards things with ease and grace and with less fight energy regarding your current circumstances. So let's get back to manifesting more friendships and aligned companionship for you right now. What are the energetic voids in your life? That is a question we will ask you to contemplate, to ask spirit and your intuition for yourself. And what are you trying to fill that's not there right now? And are there other ways you can meet those needs sooner? We will put that question your way. And what are the things you need to invite in to fill those voids in an aligned way? So get very clear on what's missing and what you'd like filled with companionship. And it will manifest faster because you won't be just missing people, so to speak. You will actually be very cognizant and aware of what you're trying to do with relationships, and if people who show up or people who can potentially fill those slots actually fit those roles. That's what
Hmm.
we'll say for that for now.
No, that helps a lot. I really appreciate that answer. Um, yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that. Um, a follow-up to the question is that sometimes I will meet people and get along with them really well, and then I don't know, then I do this thing where I become really shy the next time I see them, and I, don't wanna jinx the connection, and so I just kind of, retreat, and that might be just, a little bit of, anxious avoidant attachment or something like that, um, but I guess I'm just wondering, why how to best get over that, I guess, or, how to not be so in my head when it comes to connections with those around me, even if it's not developing into a friendship, but just, feeling more comfortable around people.
Mm. Well, you are, in one sense, trying to protect yourself when you do that.
Mm,
We would say when it comes to the attachment style theory type thing that you mentioned earlier, that is a yes in a sense. But you have to ask, mm, why is that there? What are you trying to protect yourself from? The other recommendation we have is dropping into your heart space more before you interact with others and coming more from a heart and soul knowing, making sure you are coming from a intuitive and connected to source place in your relationships. For that will begin to break down the barriers and allow you to see more clearly what's going on in relationships instead of just shying away for fear of punishment like figures in your past may have given you when you would open up or show more of yourself. In some ways, you're wary of being known, which is part of why that shows up for you. So, how can you heal the past where you have been punished or ostensibly punished for being known in order to overcome this is one suggestion from us.
mm,
Another thing we could say, this is something you will overcome as you build more confidence with more people, as you interact with more different types of people, as you begin to unpack the psyche of people through being a counselor or through studying people. And as you get more in tune with your intuition and your personal power,
mm.
you will begin to be able to be yourself more in a situation, especially the more you are not punished for it or recognize the eggshells that people have thrown uh, in front of you are their own and they're not yours to manage in the past, and that you will not be punished for being fully you by most people. And even if you are, that is their junk. It has nothing to do with you. It is not even really a rejection of you per se.
Yeah. I had this epiphany last night, which sounds kind of silly because like I'm 30 and I feel like this is something that should have hit a little bit sooner, but that's okay. Uh, I was just like looking back over the years of past photos of myself and seeing how hard I've tried to be normal and to just have this constant monitoring of myself of okay, be normal, be normal, be normal. Like, don't show that, don't have people know that. But then I'll look at certain photos and be like, it wasn't even working. Like my quirks or the certain things about me would kind of shine through anyways. And then I just think about like how sad that was that I tried so hard to cover that up when I could have been accepting it the whole time and having more love and connection along the way. Um, so I guess what I'm wanting to know, which kind of builds off of the last answer, is like how how do I is there a way to like speed up the process and then accept myself as I am in a deeper way before building that confidence with others and like stepping into the counselor role?
It comes down to your inner healing as well as your self acceptance. You have been taught to bludgeon yourself if you stood out too far by parental figures, even by false friends in the past, even. And now it is time to do away with that programming, for normal is a losing battle in your today's society and in general. It is those who are truly themselves who are going to begin winning in the days ahead and in the future of your society, for the energy is supporting that expressiveness and soul expression on the planet. Normal is a protective measure, it's a self defense protocol, you could say, and it's something that is input for you to avoid being punished. So you will have to heal your past where you were punished for being out of line, so to speak, punished for being different or weird, and realize that is your superpower to be different and to be fully yourself. And that is you bringing the frequency you need to bring to this earth to shift things. That is your mission, at least part of it in some sense, is to be fully you to and undo the programming that doesn't allow that. For you have a beautiful energy and a beautiful soul that is trying to shine through in your everyday. And speaking of relationships, if you'd like to magnetize optimal relationships for yourself, doing away with the need to be normal, so to speak, or the being normal defense protocol, that is, we will call it in this channel, just to give it a name, that would magnetize aligned friendships. Even in some ways, certain family arrangements, it might magnetize the optimal arrangements for you that way. In some ways, that is actually your main hindrance, is that illusion of trying to be normal. Where you are correct, your energies shine through regardless. It is a losing battle to fight against who you truly are or to suppress that, and it diminishes your spirit and the light of your soul in the world as you do that. So you are actually self-sabotaging by trying to be normal instead of allowing your true self to shine through. So, a lot of your hopes, desires, and dreams are much more easily attracted in when you are fully yourself. That is something we will tell you to get your mind to latch onto some of the information you need to shift it. And it is also for your awareness so that you can imbibe this message and shift going forward. So, letting your heart frequency out more is one step you can take to overcoming this normal thing. And that is heart energy for yourself, heart energy for others. For at that point, you are more present with your love, with the frequency of your soul, with the energy you'd like to bring. And it will be more difficult to step into the programming, the societal conditioning, the bludgeoning of trying to be normal. You'll be more present with who you are and what you're bringing to the table. And of course, intuition. Working on your intuition more and really allowing that to shine, you'll begin to see through how no one is normal. Everyone is just pretending if they are trying to be normal and is not really serving anyone. So, as you begin to see through that more with your awareness and your knowing, it's going to naturally undo the conditioning and programming that would tell you you have to be normal or else, which is simply not true.
Mm. Yeah, thank you. Um, okay. So pivoting a little bit, but still kind of building off of that, do you have any recommendations for tuning into my intuition, for channeling, for meditating when I really don't want to? Like when I get kind of caught up in that protective, defensive mode?
We would say take 15 minutes for yourself. Disconnect from everyone, so to speak. Hole yourself in a room or the bathroom or something for 15 minutes and just sit. You may even wish to turn your phone off if that feels right to you in the moment, though you may be guided otherwise in certain circumstances. And we would say trust your intuition on that. Mm. Disconnect for a second, get to a more neutral energy yourself instead of a whirlwind swept up in the collective, swept up in others' energies, swept up in others' desires, etc. And just sit and let things percolate and then meditate or then channel or then intuit for yourself or pull out a journal and begin channeling for yourself or however you operate in that way. It may also help you to recognize that doing things when you don't wish to do them can often, or sometimes at least, be the thing that moves the needle for you. So let us explain. If you have a practice you're initiating every day, let's say for abundance, you have a list of affirmations or intentions or mantras or energy work exercises that take 15 minutes for you to do, and you are doing this for abundance every day. You may feel very excited and motivated on day one and perhaps day two to do these exercises. And then on day three, you feel tired. You feel like you can't do it. You just had a fight with your partner or brother or a parent or a weird conversation, and it is the last thing you want to do. Well, recognizing that that is one of the most important times to show up for it, to move the needle, and to stay in momentum of manifesting that abundance for you or to stay in the momentum of keeping that exercise in place so that things can move for you, that may help. For as you just try it, as you just try to show up when you don't want to do something, and then you see the positive results and you keep doing it, you will be mm, potentially more likely to keep showing up, even if you consider it as developing the habit of showing up even when you don't want to. And we realize for some of you, this is the last thing you would like to hear. Even for many of you, this is something you don't want to hear. You want the excuse that it's okay to put this down and not do it. And in some ways, it is. At the end of the day, though, if you'd like to move the needle, sometimes you do have to push past certain things like being bored, not wanting to do it, etc. The other thing you could do if you'd really like another idea is, how can you get in the energy of wanting to do it if you don't want to do it? Is there a dance you can do every time you go to do it? So that whenever you do that dance, you are primed to just want to do it or to jump right into it. Or is there something you can do that gets you in a better mood before you do it? So you have that association before you do it. There are many tricks you can do psychologically or energy wise to get yourself to do these things. But at the end of the day, it's simply recognizing that even if you don't want to do it, it's going to help you and shift things long term, anyways. Another thing we'll offer you as a piece of advice is feeling into energetically or asking to get the energy of what it will be like if you show up for it anyways. So you could say, okay, what will it be like in my life if I keep showing up for this every day, even when I don't want to? And feel the energy of what your life will be like. Oh, that feels light and really good. Okay, what will it be like if I don't show up for this or just stop showing up for this entirely? Oh, that feels heavier. It doesn't feel as great or expansive or quite how I'd like it to be as the other one did. So that can be something that gives you the knowing of how it will go either way. And you may be more inspired to take the actions that will make your life lighter and better and more expansive.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate the like letting yourself be neutral before getting into it too, because I think sometimes when I try to force myself to channel before I have cleared the whirlwind, like I get frustrated that it's not happening.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, so I like that. And I wanted to add too that there's a shamanic practice that people can do for like the dancing before getting into it. If you've ever done any shamanic work or gone to solar people or something like that, you probably have received like your spirit animal. Um, or you could just say like, okay, what spirit animal is showing up for me right now? And then like, how would that spirit animal move through me and do the dance of that spirit animal? Um, and that's like a common practice for like allying with the spirit animal and then like getting into the receptive mode to channel. So yeah, just wanted to add that. But um, yeah, those are all really great tips. And it's motivating to hear that. Um, okay.
Perfect.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, so I said this would be a random question, so it's kind of pivoting again, but I basically I want to know like how can I stop punishing myself for past mistakes? Because I want to hold myself accountable. I want to look at them and learn from them. But I'm also recognizing that like I can get caught up in like maybe over punishing myself and it's can keep me from letting the new in or like letting myself transform.
Hmm. Well, the mistakes are there to give you wisdom. They're not there to punish you, which you acknowledged. However, we will state it again. The mistakes are there to give you wisdom. The mistakes are there to teach you something. And in some ways, the mistakes are your friend. Punishment is more of a religious example of what you might do to atone for something or to rectify a situation. So you may be trying to rectify it by punishing yourself, or you may be trying to avoid punishment, like you might have had as a child for a mistake, by pre punishing yourself. For some of you listening, though that is not the case for all. So, our recommendation for overcoming this particular thing, if you will, is obviously to forgive your past mistakes. And you can do this through a meditation. You can get into a meditative state. You can get the energy of the mistake, all the stories you have around it, all the projections you have around it, all the what ifs you may have around it. Look at it, look at yourself, and say, I forgive. And say it 3 times. I forgive. I forgive. Thank you for the learning so I do not repeat you. And also look at all the good, on a separate note, that has come about from that mistake, from that learning. Think of all the terrible things you may have saved yourself from by learning that lesson now, by learning that thing about life now. Some of you listening think you've ruined your life with certain mistakes. And for some of you, we understand how you really may have wished you'd made a different choice in the past that could have propelled you to a greater future. Well, we'll remind you your future is created now through your current choices. So, beating yourself up right now over a past mistake, what is that creating for your future now when that is your choice in the current moment? There might be a better choice for you that will create a greater future based on that past mistake, such as forgiveness, such as taking the learning and moving on. And asking the question, what would I like to create for my future? That might be something to put in place. Another phrase you could use, I allow myself to forgive myself for my past mistakes. What would I like to create now? What would I like to create for my future? Something like that may shift the energy away from beating yourself up to, okay, allowance, and what would I like to create? It brings in and generates a different energy, and you're less focused on the past and the slip up and more on the now and what can be created, possibility perhaps. So let us backtrack just a little bit here, for we have gone to quite a few different things at once. Mm. Your past mistakes may have saved you from worse futures if you had not learned that thing. So let us explain that a little bit more deeply. Let's say there is a character or a person named John. And John has 3 choices at a certain segue or junction in John's life. John can go left and take a certain job. John can go straight and continue with a business John is working on. John can go right and quit everything and become homeless. And let's say John goes straight and he continues with his business, but then a month later, some disaster strikes or something happens and his business completely tanks. And John thinks back and sits intuitively and goes, actually, I was feeling lighter about going left and taking that job. It was just something I didn't want to do. I really wanted this business to work out. So, John has learned a bit about how his intuition works at that point, a bit about how to make better choices in the future. And the next time John comes to a juncture like that, where he can continue on a path, take a left turn to something else that comes in, it could be an offering from spirits, or go to the right to something else, he'll know that this time he is going to make the choice that feels lightest and best to him. And at that point, that situation could have gone far worse than the first junction if he had not learned from the first junction in the first place. Many of you think your mistakes are all you. That is sometimes the case. That is not always the case. Sometimes spirit has you make a mistake for a reason. And usually these are smaller mistakes, not gigantic or horrific mistakes that cause casualties or anything like that. However, sometimes there's a certain complicitness from the universe in a mistake to alter a timeline or to get you onto a better path now or in the future. So please realize your mistakes are not always you. And that's not to take away accountability, for otherwise you would never learn. The fact that you are looking at it and seeking to learn from it, that means there is a certain level of accountability. So accountability never means punishment. Accountability means you're recognizing your actions have an influence on the world and using that to create greater. instead of the same old thing, if you are not happy with the same old thing or realizing that is damaging to continue with the same old thing, or just throwing that to the wind and choosing whatever for whatever reason.
Mm. I think something that comes up for me in listening, like kind of like a hook that wants to keep me back, is thinking about times where I've made mistakes in relation to others, where I've had that negative impact on another person or on the world, depending on what it was. And it can feel like, oh, it's wrong to forgive myself if I don't know if they've forgiven me,
Mm.
or moved on from it.
Well, whose hook is that? Is that yours or someone else's?
And a case I'm thinking of, it's someone else's, I think, who just has a lot of resentment about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that per se. However, beating yourself up just because someone else wants you to isn't always the answer. And where is the personal power in that?
Mhm.
There
Yeah.
is none. You're just at the whim of everyone else. And making yourself someone else's slave emotionally, mentally, or energetically, or in any way, shape, or form, just because you made a mistake, you feel like you made a mistake, they feel like you made a mistake, etc. That isn't personal power. And that doesn't necessarily heal them or change the situation for the better for anyone. For are they moving on and healing if they are just hooking you into feeling bad and beating up on yourself, and they are latched and stuck into that story of what happened and what it means about them and what it means about you and what it means about the world, what it means about the future of their life, and all that crazy-ish that humans are trained into to generate stories about what things mean that aren't true, that stick them into an emotional spiral and a mental spiral over and over and over again. Ugh, what a trap. You don't have to go there with them. Your job is to extricate yourself, learn the lesson, and move on, not to stay in a karmic loop with someone because they won't do the healing work regarding the situation. So,
Mm.
another thing you can do, wish them healing and wish that both of you move on optimally for yourselves. For keeping yourself hooked in and punishing yourself, that just increases the amount of damage done in the universe. It doesn't necessarily heal anyone or, again, help the situation or transmute anything. It keeps things locked into a negative cycle, if you will, that doesn't need to be there. So, we would advise you to set yourself free, realize you have changed as a person, and that they need to also grow up and change as an individual if they would like a better life ahead.
Mm. Okay. Yeah, that helps a lot. Thank you. Okay. All right. My next question is how to not compare myself to others creatively. Uh, there have been times where I have kind of, speaking of hooks, like hooked on to a certain person who I think has creative talent, and I then kind of like use it to not allow myself to create because I'm like, well, my stuff isn't going to come out like that, so I'm just not going to do anything. Um, so I'm wondering how to best let that go so I can start creating again.
Mm. Well, one, ask what is your unique value? And does that other person have that? And do that intuitively. And also, what is the future of your creativity and your creations? And is it still less than theirs? We realize that's a dangerous territory to say less than, for there's a bit of judgment, there's a bit of projection, there's a bit of self loathing when you call your work less than. Though it can be good to be objective or intuitive about your approach and realize, oh, yes, there's an area I would like to improve in here. Great. I appreciate that inspiration. I'm going to get to work. For getting to work is going to be the thing that also gets you to a better place where you might not be in such comparison, or you might not be seeing your art and someone else's art. Let's use that example and thinking that you suck or that it reflects on you in some terrible way. Oh, they may just be further along in their art journey. or they may have learned a trick or two that you haven't, or it's just meant to be your push to work on your work and work on yourself and your creativity to get to a higher and better level. It could be a calling, so to speak, rather than something to beat yourself up about.
Mm.
You may also wish to manifest. How can my creation become greater faster? How can
Okay.
I begin to outcreate others, at least to a degree that I'm happy with my work? And again, that's not about comparison. It's bringing your journey back to yourself and making it less about other people and where they are at. Or in 5 years, if you were to work on your creativity, you could be far beyond the individual or individuals you have in mind that you compare yourself to. You would just have to manifest it, put the effort into it, work with your what you have at hand to improve, etc.
Okay. Yeah, because when I tune into it, I feel like my creativity and my value, I'm drawn to writing and to doing very like heart-centered writing that kind of brings through the wisdom I've learned and things like that. And I think there's this automatic comparison to like, well, that type of artwork, like that's not Instagrammable, like that's not shiny, that's not uh marketable. And that's not even true though. Like I feel like that type of writing is what I'm drawn to. And if I can do it from an authentic place, then I will find the right people as well. And to just, like you're
Yes.
saying, like own that. Um,
Yes.
okay.
Sometimes what you are jealous of is someone's confidence
Mm,
and their ability to put themselves out there and not care what others think. And it's not even about the arts. And that's not
yeah.
the case for mm, every single person tuning in, but it's
Mm,
not always about the art.
yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay. Okay. And then my last question here, how to choose the best timeline available to us in any given moment.
Well, manifest it is our cheat code. Some of you think that's bullshit. You've tried that. Well, have you worked on your manifesting lately or gotten it to a high level? We'll point you back to that direction and to yourself. Work with that and working on yourself. And you will get there. Some of you think it's impossible, but it can be that easy. Well, I invite in the highest and best timelines, and Spirit will put in the events, the people, the learnings, the situations, the healings, the clearings, etc., that you need to get there. Or it can just happen instantly if you are ready for that quantum leap, if you will. That is the mainstream phrase we will borrow for you today. For so many of you love that hype, the quantum leap, hype, hype, hype. Anyways, coming back to the message for you, mm, besides manifesting it, letting go, looking at your options and your choices, and it can be for each day, it can be for the week, for the month ahead, and you can ask for each option. And we realize it may be difficult to do this uh, in every single given instant moment when there might be, well, infinite options to choose from. However, look at your main options and you can ask, what will this create? Will this create greater? Will this create my highest timeline? Will this create the lightest and brightest outcomes and options for me? Or will this contract or constrict or bring things in a direction that's darker? And be honest with yourself about what you're getting. Don't remain attached to the things, to the trajectories, to your ideas of things, to the outcomes. Just intuitively either get the energy of it or get the channel message about it, however you operate currently. And then just choose the lightest paths. Choose the options that will create the greatest. Choose the options you're getting will bring about the best results. It is really that simple. It's about your choices every day, in addition to your manifestations, to how you are shifting energetically, etc. And if you notice yourself going down a dark path or a trajectory that feels heavier to you, stop, take 15 minutes. Ask Spirit, what would change this? How does it get any better than this? Spirit, how can we redirect to a brighter, lighter, and higher timeline? and just keep making those choices that lead higher, lead to greater ease, lead to more expansion. That will create your highest timeline. So many of you overcomplicate it. You think you need to jump over a pool of sharks and perform a ritual with a 12-foot diameter crystal grid, and then you have to slap your mom across the face, and then you have to run to church and apologize for slapping your mom across the face, and then you have to start a YouTube channel, and then you have to delete that YouTube channel, then you have to start an Instagram, then you have to delete that Instagram, then you have to start a third Instagram account after deleting a few more accounts, and then you have to start a personal blog. Oh, no. The simpler, in some cases, the better. You can simplify the way you work with the universe so that your rituals, your impacts, your intentions you set are very simple, effective, and quick. So I ask for my highest and best timeline, Spirit. Thank you. Do whatever it takes to get me there with ease and grace. I appreciate it. That will do as long as you are willing to receive it and willing to receive the intuitive information and act upon it when it comes to get you there. That's really our answer. Uh, some of you might wish we had more for you, but you are overcomplicating if you're not looking at your choices, your manifestations, and you working on yourself, honestly.
Mm. All
Another
right.
shortcut could be working on your personal healing and just getting yourself to the place where you will make the best or optimal choices more of the time or all of the time. That will get you to a higher timeline as well. And then be willing to receive the results of that, be willing to receive the higher timeline, and be willing to let go of what is of lower timelines.
Would making a quantum leap feel overwhelming?
No, you do it every day.
Hmm.
It is literally just shifting things really quickly uh, on a source level and below. So if you manifest something and it shows up right away, that was a quantum leap, sort of. The problem with the hype and that phrase is it actually puts quantum leaps lower than they actually are, and it glorifies them. So they seem out of reach. It's impossible to attain them. But as you raise your vibration and operate more from a source level in your divine guidance and the ways you approach your life, you quantum leap every day with what you ask for, even with what you choose. So you can become more quantum and beyond in a way as you raise your vibration and become more of a uh, light filled being that has more potency with manifesting. It's just your ability to shift reality really quickly. And that can be done through manifesting. So, quantum leaps can be really simple if you will allow them to be and stop mystifying them and putting them beyond yourself when you are everything and you could call them in every day. And that's not to put pressure on your circumstances if you're having difficulty shifting something. What if that's there for a reason? What if that's actually keeping things on the highest timeline a year from now? And that's not the case for every single thing. You will have to approach it um, on a case by case basis in some instances. It's not to get you to lock into a blanket statement and get mad at yourself when you're not quantum leaping your most annoying circumstance in zero point zero 0.02 seconds. You can give yourself a bit of time with it, but the higher vibrational you become, the more potent you become with manifesting, the easier it is to quantum leap if you do not mystify it, especially. Though, even if you do, you may eventually realize, oh, I've been doing this every day. I don't need to mystify this. And let's move on to something greater that's going to call in greater instead of hyper focusing on this very hyped up phenomena that's actually a very simple manifestation technique.
Okay. Okay. Well, awesome. That covers all the questions that I have. Was there anything else that you want to add before we close it up?
Yes, very briefly. Now is the time to look at prosperity, not just with money, but looking at the choices that will create greater, the endeavors that will create greater for you and the planet, looking at your everyday habits and things that you do that will create greater for you. Prosperity in this instance is not just money, it's more. And it's more in a way that's of the light. So, how can you generate and create more? And if you will think that things are infinite and unlimited, this does not take away or have to take away from abundance in another area of your life. It does not have to take away from necessarily something that's already there, unless that is the only or that is a necessary way to generate more. At which case, that thing that's leaving would be a block to more. So, would you really want it there? That's just something to consider. There's probably a higher aligned thing that you could bring in that would be more in alignment with your future and with your optimal experience on the planet while you're here. So, focus on prosperity, focus on healing blocks to prosperity, focus on that, and you will be generating more for yourself and the planet. That is our side message for those of you tuning in who that will simply just help you. That is all. So we
Okay.
thank you, Kat, for your questions and generating those. And even if they seemed personal or they only catered to you, that is not the truth. They cater to all who will show up and who will listen to this and imbibe the messages. And many listening had those areas they were questioning themselves or working through themselves. So you are actually moving the collective along when you bring these situations to the conversation for us to channel on, and you are beginning to shift the collective around these things when we get to channel on them for multiple people, including you. So thank you for doing your work to do what's for the highest good for the collective. And we are signing out for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So that seemed like a good one on me, my watching that, and however it works, it seemed like a good one. It felt like a good one.
Yeah.
So hopefully that was good for you and for everyone listening. Was there anything else you wanted to
Mhm.
say or even like add to anything is something I'm hearing as we begin to kind of close it out and wind down this episode, I guess.
Ah, I don't know. I mean, I would love to hear in the comments like what resonated for people and what shifted for people or practices that they're trying that are working for them when it comes to like meditating when you don't want to or forgiving yourself and things like that. Yeah, I think recognizing that so many of the things that can feel so personal aren't, that these are fairly common areas that we all kind of circle around sometimes can help a lot. So, yeah, I mean, thank you for doing this.
Totally. Yeah, you're welcome. They're saying you're welcome. And they're telling me to tell you this. Even like the making friends as an adult, like there were so many synchronicities I saw like online of not people asking me, but just out there on social media, people like, how do you make friends as an adult? How do you make friends as an adult? Like I think I saw it like 11 times this week leading up to this. So
Mm,
it did and didn't surprise me that it was a question that you asked. Like, of course it showed up because I'm about to channel on it. So
yeah.
um I thought that
Huh.
was funny. But and also I guess maybe that was also to your point that like it might seem very personal, but it's probably not,
Yeah. Well,
always
and
as personal as you think.
I was just reading an article last night too about it, like it can feel like we're doing something wrong or it can feel like a judgment on us when we don't have too many friends in our life. Like I we don't necessarily look at like the life circumstances. It's more of like, I don't know, it feels like kind of like a high school mindset of just like, well, what are you doing wrong that you can't make friends, or like what's
Totally.
wrong with you? And that's not always it at all. Like we're so separated from each other these days. Um, and if you work from home, like it can just be hard. But
Yeah.
yeah,
No, totally. Yeah, it's definitely like what I'm hearing is like it's an old story, at least for you.
yeah,
Like it's an old story. It's like
yeah.
I don't think it's the same, but I don't want to take too much time myself if we're supposed to wrap it up. But if it turns into an additional conversation, that's okay too. I know it might not be the same thing as you, but I remember like in my early 20s, like if I wasn't going out at night or if I didn't have something lined up on like the weekends, I'd be like, oh my
Mm,
God, like what are people gonna think? Like, oh my gosh, such a da, 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 da. Like it would just like be this like pressure of like, oh, I gotta have someone to hang out with or else I'm gonna be and people aren't gonna think
mhm,
or like people were gonna think less. But it was just like a story. And like
yeah,
honestly, I'm so happy not going out on a Friday night now. Like life is great.
yeah, yeah.
um
But that totally comes up. Like even just like thinking about okay, like Monday morning, if I'm in the office, they're gonna ask me how my weekend was. What if I have nothing to say? Like, that's
Totally, I hear
awkward.
you.
Um, but also if you get joy from just like working on a puzzle or just like chilling at home, like that should be fine too. Um, yeah, like you said, old story needs to go.
Yeah, totally. It'll clear. I think it's just something you're working through. The other thing they're recommending, weirdly enough, is like a chakra clearing regarding that for some reason. Like even if it's before you go into the office, you're just like a bit more clear of that, or maybe even other people's stuff around that if you feel like it's other people's stuff sometimes when you check in on it. But
Mhm.
something about that might balance it out and shift it more quickly. Just as
Mm.
random, whether however you do it, shamanic, energy healing, anything like that. Okay, well, unless you have anything else, I'm getting to start to close it now. So thank you again for contributing to this and uh, showing your beautiful face for the podcast here. And I hope everyone listening hope that was helpful, resonated to whatever was for the highest good. And you can find more from me on my website, which will be down in the description if you're interested. And besides that, I guess I will see you on another episode, should it be in the highest good.
All right. Bye, everyone.
See ya.